Hi students, I welcome you to this English class. Here we'll study a lesson for students of class 10th, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And I am Ruchika Gupta. So here in this video, we'll cover the background of this poem and a summary of this poem. If you want to see the explanation of the poem, it is given in a separate video and the link is given in the description box. So let us begin with this lesson. Background of the poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The poem is considered to be one of the greatest poems of English literature. It is written in the form of a ballet, that is musical poem, and it consists of 625 lines. The poem is divided into 7 parts. Now, why do I say this is one of the greatest poems of English literature? Just see the size of the poem. It's so lengthy. It has 7 parts. That is why it is considered to be one of the greatest works in English literature. The form of the poem is in a ballet form, that is a musical poem. It has rhyme and rhythm in it. It is based on the dream of a friend of the poet. So the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge had a friend, and the friend had a dream. Based on this dream, this poet wrote this poem. It is about an old sailor and is set in ancient times. It is the story of sin, punishment and redemption of this old sailor. In this poem, we'll come across an old sailor, a person who went to the sea. And this poem was written many years ago. So the setting of the poem is also of the olden times, the ancient times. Basically, this poem gives us the lesson of how a person commits a sin, how he does a wrong act, how he is punished for it, and later on how he feels sorry, he feels guilty for his misdeed. The poet gives us an important message that those who harm and torture others can never have peace of mind. The sinner as well as those who support him are eventually punished by God. So the important message, the theme of this poem is that any person who does a crime, who commits a wrong act, is not forgiven by God. He has to face punishment, and finally he has to realize his wrong act and he has to feel guilty for it. Now let us see the summary of this poem. A group of wedding guests is going to a wedding feast when one of the guests is stopped by an old sailor. So how does this poem begin? In this poem, a group of wedding guests is going to a wedding feast. They are going to attend a wedding. And on their way, one of the guests is stopped by an old sailor. He is eager to tell him his story. The sailor forces him to stop and listen to his story. So this sailor wants to tell his story to this guest, and he stops him and he forces him because the guest wants to go to the wedding, but the sailor wants him to stop and listen to his story. So the sailor forces him to stop. Then further we come to know the sailor narrates his story that how their ship sailed from the harbour on a happy note. Now then, when the sailor has stopped that person to listen to his story, he starts narrating his story. And he says that their ship started from the harbour on a happy note. All the crew was very happy when their ship started sailing. They had a smooth journey for some time, after which a storm forced their ship southwards towards the land of snow and mist. For some time, their ship sailed smoothly. There was no problem. But after some time, a storm, a huge, powerful wind started blowing and it forced their ship southwards. It pushed the ship towards the south direction and they reached the land of snow and mist. Probably they reached the land of Antarctic region, where we have the continent called Antarctica. That place is surrounded by huge masses of snow and ice, and that is where their ship also reached. Then further we come to know the ship got stuck in the lifeless region with huge masses of ice all around it. The ice made loud noises as it cracked. Now their ship got stuck in these huge masses of ice and they were surrounded by ice all around them. And then the ancient mariner says that the ice made loud, strange noises as it cracked. At that moment, an albatross came flying through the fog. Just then, when their ship was stuck in this huge mass of ice, an albatross bird came flying through the fog. Through the foggy sky, they saw that an albatross bird came flying towards the ship. It was treated to be a noble soul, a holy messenger of God. Now the ship's crew thought that this albatross bird, which is considered to be a holy messenger of Jesus Christ, was a noble soul, was a good soul, and it had come to help them. Its arrival was considered to be a good omen, as with its arrival the snow cracked and gave way to the ship, which once again started sailing. Now just as the albatross appeared, at that same time another good thing happened. The snow which had surrounded their ship and their ship was stuck in it cracked. And when it cracked, it gave way to the ship and the ship started sailing. And so, the crew of the ship considered the albatross to be a good omen, a good sign for them, because its arrival marked the recommencement of their journey. So once again, their ship started sailing. The holy bird flew along with the ship and was fed by the crew. Then the mariner says that the albatross accompanied their ship and it was also fed by the ship's crew. A favorable south wind blew, which drove the ship out of the cursed land of snow and mist. Now, as their ship was traveling towards the north direction, along with that, a favorable means such a wind started blowing which was in the favor of the ship. It was blowing from the south direction and it helped their ship sail smoothly towards the north. And it pushed the ship out of the cursed land of snow and mist. Why does the mariner call the land of snow and mist as the cursed land? Because they were stuck in the snow and it was very cold. There was ice all around them. So now once again, destiny favored them and their ship started sailing towards the north and there was a favorable wind blowing which pushed their ship towards the north. So the crew was very happy that they had started sailing and the arrival of the albatross was considered to be a good sign for them, and so they fed the bird and they welcomed it. The sailors thanked the bird as it was a good omen for them. So the crew of the ship, all the sailors were very happy that the arrival of the albatross was favorable for them. Then we come to know the sailor's face became sad and the wedding guest asked him the reason for it. All of a sudden, the ancient mariner's expressions changed and his face became very sad. The sailor said that in the spur of the moment, he had shot the bird dead with his crossbow. So the mariner tells to the wedding guest that just like that, in the spur of the moment, in the heat of the moment, he used his crossbow, aimed at the albatross and shot it dead with this arrow. So this is the sin which the mariner did and he is now guilty for it. He wants to atone it and that is why he is telling all this to the wedding guest. So the sailor tells the wedding guest that just in the heat of the moment, without any reason, he took an arrow and shot the albatross dead with his crossbow. His fellow salesmen blamed and cursed him for killing the holy bird, but later they felt that he was right in killing the bird which had brought the fog and mist. Now, initially, all the sailors were against the ancient mariner, and they blamed him and they cursed him for killing such a nice holy bird, which was a good sign for them, which was favorable for them. But later on, what they did? They felt that the mariner was right in killing the albatross, because they said that the albatross had brought the fog and mist with it. So here we come to know that the crew of the ship is opportunist. At one point of time, when they were sad, they blamed the mariner for killing the bird. But later on, when they were happy, they were enjoying, then they said that the mariner was right in his act. For some time, the ship kept on sailing smoothly towards the northern direction. Suddenly, the wind stopped blowing and the ship came to a halt. Now, once they had moved from the land of snow and mist, and a favorable south wind was blowing, which was pushing them towards the north direction, their ship kept on sailing smoothly for some time. But all of a sudden, what happened? The wind stopped blowing, the south wind stopped, and their ship stopped in the middle of the sea. After some time, their stock of drinking water finished. The ship was surrounded by the water of the sea, but the crew did not have a single drop of water to drink. Now, when their ship was stuck in the middle of the sea, what happened? After some time, their drinking water also finished. And then the mariner says that although they were surrounded by water all around them, they were in the middle of the sea, but the crew did not have a single drop of water to drink. Because as we all know, the water of the sea is very saline, it is very salty, and it is not fit for drinking. Further, we come to know the sea was so quiet that it seemed to rot, and strange creatures moved on its surface. The mariner says that the sea was very quiet. It was as if no one had ever come into that sea before them. And it seemed as if the surface of the sea was rotting, because it was very hot and there was no movement in the sea. And then, when it was so hot, they felt that some strange creatures were moving on the surface of the sea. This is a hallucination which the sailors were seeing. It was not something which was actually happening. They felt that the bird's soul had followed their ship to take revenge. The sailors could not speak due to their dry throats. Now, when they were feeling inconvenient, they were facing some tough times, again, the crew of the ship felt that the soul of the albatross bird was following them and it was taking revenge. Now, they felt that death was near, and it was all due to the soul of the albatross which had followed them and it wanted to take revenge for its death. The sailors were facing extreme, acute shortage of water and they could not even speak. They felt that their throats were dry and they were choked with soot. Soot is dry smoke. So the mariner says that their throats were so dry, they were not able to speak and they felt as if they were choked with soot. They looked at the mariner with hatred. They replaced the cross in his neck with the dead albatross bird to signify his sin and guilt. Now, when the crew of the ship was facing such hardship, they blamed the ancient mariner, because it was due to the mariner that the soul of the albatross was following their ship, and they looked at the mariner with hatred. And then the mariner says that they wanted him to realize his guilt. So what did they do? they removed the cross from his neck. The cross, which is the symbol of Jesus Christ, which is worn by Christians, that was removed from the mariner's neck, and in place of that, the dead albatross was hung in his neck in order to make him realize the sin that he had committed and make him feel guilty for it. This is also symbolical. It was not actually done, but this is the realization of the mariner. When the mariner realizes his wrong act and he feels guilty for it, then he feels that he is not worth wearing the cross, which is the symbol of Jesus Christ, because he had killed the albatross, which is considered to be a messenger of Jesus Christ. So when he had killed this holy bird, he was not fit to wear the holy cross in his neck. So with this, we have covered the background and the summary of this poem. Thank you.